Well, thank you for that update, Justin. And right now in studio, we're still hanging out with Gerig, who's giving us an artist approach this afternoon. Thanks for sticking around here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, but you are an oil-based painter. Now, give us the basics. If you've never heard of oil-based painting, I've heard of acrylic painting. Tell me, what exactly is that?
Yeah, so oil paint is pigment and a binder, which is typically linseed oil. And oil painting is different than acrylic paint in that it has a longer drying time. So it can take like weeks to months before a painting is completely dry, which can be challenging, or it can be like this really joyful thing where you can work into a painting for a longer amount of time, which is one of the reasons why I really like it, is that the paint is malleable and I can edit it, or maybe a painting comes really quickly and that's fine, it needs to dry.
Yeah, but weeks to months.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So do you actually work on like multiple paintings at the same time?
Yes.
I would do that. I'd be like, okay, I got one here, let me get the other one started.
Totally. So actually the pieces that you see here, they probably were shuffled around my studio at the same time. The works tend to come together sort of simultaneously when I'm working on a show. So I'll work on like a bigger piece and then I'll get sort of tired of it and I'll need a break, and then I'll go to a smaller piece or do some sketches. And so that sort of spaces out the drying time, the layers. But also sometimes I complete a piece in like one sitting because it just comes really quickly. So,
okay, well that is awesome. Yeah. So why did you want to make this kind of your signature style though, and make that something that was really part of your work?
Yeah, well, you know, that's a good question, and I think kind of tricky because a lot of being an artist is just trying to figure out what your artistic voice is. And so I went to college for studio art and writing, and then I went for my MFA, and I was constantly thinking about like what matters most to me, what interests me most. And I'm really drawn to this idea of place attachment and how we create memories with locations and the landscapes that we pass through. And in particular, I really love sort of the feeling of the atmosphere of a place. So like the humidity, the way the sunset's capturing the really saturated bright tones and hues, and how certain things like stand out at various times of day, and thinking about how can I capture that in paint, how can I capture that in mark, and what tools can I use to create those atmospheres.
That is awesome. So talk about how you captured that all in these different paintings you have here.
Yeah, so a lot of my work is either from observation or from memory of like personal experiences. So I think of my painting practice as sort of creating diaristic events and recollections of landscapes. So all of these are places that I've either like camped at. So this one is of a shoreline on Leelanau that this is fresh from the fall, but a fall camping trip, and sort of the landscape as it was like dissipating into the winter months. So thinking about the color palettes and how things were fading, but then at dusk there were certain colors that were really vibrant and sharp. And then there's, this piece behind me is of a shorelight at my family cottage in Northern Ontario, Canada, a place that I would go to regularly and paint. So this is sort of a recurring motif in my work, but thinking about years past. And so there's another piece that has the same view, but a slightly different take on it, because when you're experiencing a place, you're present, but you're also bringing with you like certain emotions and things to the place. So you're not only thinking about what's happening at the present, but everything that sort of like happened to you in that moment. And so then thinking about that as like a metaphor for marks. So some things that are really sharp or really soft and fading, how that's, looking at a landscape in the distance, but also memories change and fade and evolve. And some things are really sharp, like these saturated colors or the oil pastels that rest on top of the surface.
That is awesome.
So painting is really like a metaphor for like time and place in my practice.
It's a metaphor, but it's also a story. And I love the way that each of your artwork here holds a story and communicates something to everyone who gets a chance to visit. Well, thank you so much for giving us the artist approach this afternoon. And if you want to support more of Lauren's work, her information is right here below on the screen. And just one last thing, how else can we support local artists right here in our community?
I think showing up. There are so many events that are happening in the community. We have a lot of art spaces like Struck, Nelson, Scene Metro Space in downtown East Lansing, open studios. I think it also goes a long way just to follow artists on Instagram and sharing their work. You see something that excites you, share it across your social media feed. Word of mouth goes a long way.
It certainly does, and your information is right there on the screen. I know who I'm following next, but don't go anywhere just yet. It's the start of baseball.